Hello, my name is MegalordX8, and it is an honour to present to you the world's hardest game, A Year in Summary, a series started by HS Blue back in 2018. In this video, we're going to take a look at what the world's hardest game community has achieved in 2025.
In the early months of the year, several players submitted times to the World's Hardest Game 1 leaderboards, but none as determined as JakeGD24, who improved his own PB 13 times. In April, Jake beat the game in 5:49, making him the 33rd person to achieve a sub-6. 2 months later, Jake lowered his PB to a 5:44.200, putting him in the 23rd place, tied with Victorium's 5:44.200 from 2023. The next person to join the sub-6 club was Burger Bear, who posted a 5:48.133 in November as his first submission to speedrun.com. What came next was a surprise to everyone. Minichip, a player best known for cheating in Red Bull, just kidding, posted this video. Minichip had earlier claimed to have an unrecorded 5:06, but this claim was treated with heavy skepticism until he proved his skill with this video. This run was monumental, smashing Raflic's 5:09.233, which had stood as the world record for almost 2 years. Raflic, who had already been working on improving his PB, knew he had to make big changes to catch up. Inspired by Minichip, he implemented IL-12 into his runs, getting his first successful full game run with it on December the 4th, with a time of 5:09.166. It's worth noting that due to a rule change, runs from this point onwards use a modified version of the game that cuts out 6 frames of transition time, without which this run would not have been a PB. 2 days later, Minichip found himself in the same situation, lowering his world record by 3 frames after a clutch recovery in 27, with a flawless execution in the other 29 levels. In the meantime, Dimram was working on his time, and after 2 PBs earlier in the year, he achieved a 5:19.366 on the 8th of December, becoming the 10th person to have a time below 5:20. On the very same day, he did a theme, crushing his PB, setting a 5:15.933, putting him in 8th place. The next day, Minichip proved that his last PB was not just a timing fluke, lowering the world record to 5:04.733, a very solid time, but Minichip wasn't satisfied. Hours later, he improved again, setting a 5:03.166. But even this run had one small mistake, missing a coin in level 26. The next day, Minichip was back on the grind, and then this happened. With this run, Minichip had successfully executed all of the strategies he was aiming for, achieving the first ever perfect run, so to speak. So, is it even possible for this time to be beaten? Well, yes, the answer is it definitely can be beaten, but it will be very difficult. As the world record got closer and closer to 5 minutes, players began to realize their sub 5-minute run might one day be a reality, no longer just theoretical. If you'd like to know about what it would take to get a sub 5 time in this game, Canvas made an excellent video summarizing the topic. But Minichip wasn't the only player approaching the 5-minute barrier. A few hours after his world record, Raflic lowered his second place time, achieving a 5:07.500, and he improved upon it the very next day with a 5:06.800, proving that Minichip wasn't the only player who could get low 5-minute times. During this time, Burger Bear had been steadily improving his PB, culminating in a 5:24.633 on December the 14th. 2 days later, Vowels improved his PB to a 5:21.800, inching closer to the 5:20 barrier. Drought was also swept up in the momentum, shaving 3 seconds off his PB the next day. And 2 days after that, Beta TR proved he is still a top contender, improving his PB to a lower 509. With this, all of the current top 3 times in the World's Hardest Game 1 were set in the final month of the year. But the string of World's Hardest Game 1 PBs didn't stop there. On Boxing Day, Astral Nexus achieved a 551, making them the 36th person in the sub-6 club. Later on the same day, Canvas improved his PB to a 520.966. 2 days later, Astral set another PB, now with a 543, bringing them in 25th place. And on the final day of the year, Goldenrod improved with a 549.400, 5 seconds faster than their 554 from 2023. A shoutout also to Kalinkuzard, IDPG, Big Good 55, Praj 5, Coprolol 15, SECP, YTSMO Boy, Real Jamesy, Sam Villaflor, Nice Guy Man, Jay Burge, Especie, Guild 67 and 49R, who all set new PBs in the World's Hardest Game 1 this year. In individual level speedruns this year, Raflik became the first person to tie the new task route for level 29. This route, which was discovered by Raflik at the end of 2023 using a hidden resolution, requires a very awkward frame-perfect input sequence toward the end to successfully pull off the enemy clip. This was later tied by Trout in February, who also achieved impressive world record ties on levels 26 and 28 earlier in the same month. Jump forward to November and Canvas had his eye set on level 20. After being the first person to pull off Task 20 in 2022, Canvas had only held the world record for 3 days before Vowel had beaten it. At the start of 2025, the world record was 10:04 by the Me, just 3 frames off the fastest known task times. Now, Canvas was back to prove that he was the best Task 20 player out there. He started with a 10:03, beating the Me by 1 frame by using a wall clip around the final corner. He could save 1 more frame by doing an additional wall clip, but if he wanted to tie the task time, he needed to switch to a hidden resolution, which saves the frame on the final wall but makes the rest of the route much harder. On December 20th, while doing attempts on 43 hidden heights, Canvas achieved a 10:02, perfectly executing both final wall clips but losing 1 frame at the turnaround on the final coin. Settling for nothing less than perfection, Canvas continued his attempt, and on December 23rd, he achieved the 10:01, tying Task 20 to the frame, conquering the level once and for all. Several other players submitted individual level speedruns this year, but by far the most active player was Burger Bear, who went from 0 to 20 tied world records in the span of just 34 days. A shoutout also to Dimram and GGG 502, who set impressive individual level times this year. The HTML version of the World's Hardest Game 1 also had some activity this year. On January the 11th, Trout reclaimed the world record from Steely Yolo, who had set his 925 just a few days before the end of the previous year. Trout was able to reduce the record by 3 seconds by using more consistent routes, with the only time loss being 1 second on level 25. To beat this time by any significant amount, he would need to implement faster routes, which is exactly what he did 4 days later, lowering the world record to 917 by saving time on levels 22, level 26, and level 28. In March, JakeJD24 posted his first time to the HTML leaderboards, clocking in at 39 minutes and 20 seconds. It should be noted that the HTML version of the World's Hardest Game 1 is significantly harder than the original, due to the player being slower and the hitboxes being more strict, but Jake was not discouraged, and he lowered his PB to 17 minutes and 18 seconds the following month. As December rolled around, Trout was working on lowering the world record again. His first big achievement was another 917. It was 14 frames faster than his previous 917, but this wouldn't be recognized on speedrun.com since milliseconds aren't included on the HTML leaderboards. But Rauk didn't stop there. On the final day of the year, he made a huge leap, achieving a time of 9 minutes and 10 seconds, which could have been even at 9 minutes and 9 seconds if not for a slight misstep in level 18, or the brief use of a pause menu at the beginning of the run. This faster time was possible due to harder routes implemented on level 7, level 16, level 24, and level 29. With perfect executions, this run would have been around 9 minutes and 8 seconds, but even lower times are possible if faster routes are used. Rauk was also active in HTML individual level speedruns, setting 11 new untied world records and lowering the IL sum of best by over 2 seconds. Rauk still holds the world record in every HTML level, with GGG 502 holding 14 out of 30. The human sum of best is still more than 10 seconds away from the task sum of best, with many major time saves not yet achieved by humans. For example, level 10, level 18, and level 26. Among all of the events that happened in the World's Hardest Game community in 2025, the World's Hardest Game won Flash and HTML so many runs and achievements, but there's still a lot more to cover in the rest of the series.
Several new players joined the World's Hardest Game 2 leaderboards this year. In June, Jake GD24 set a 1917, improving to a 1704 on the same day, putting him in 12th place. In August, VideoCake beat Raflik's former world record by 8 seconds, achieving a 1036. This marks VideoCake's first full game world record in the World's Hardest Game series. This impressive run featured fast routes performed consistently throughout, and although there were quite a few mistakes, they were mostly only small time losses. However, Raflik wasn't going to let his record be taken that easily. The very next day, he set a 1030, reclaiming the world record. Raflik's run also had several mistakes, but was able to save time over VideoCake through some faster routes, for example hitting the fast cycle in level 21, a 20-second level 26 with a death start, and a faster level 48 and 49. This is the third time in a row that Raflik has reclaimed his World's Hardest Game 2 record within a day. Quite an impressive feat. Activity in the World's Hardest Game 2 subsided until December. On the 21st, Mega Charizard joined the leaderboard with a time of 42 minutes and 47 seconds. Over the following days, Dimrom joined the leaderboard, starting with a 1 hour 17 minute run and improving his time down to 32 minutes. In individual levels of the World's Hardest Game 2, Fraims was the first to strike, tying the Taz time on level 45 on the 3rd of May. 3 days later, GGG 502 also tied this record, regaining his 50 out of 50 first places in the World's Hardest Game 2 ILs. Throughout June, GGG 502 went on an IL spree, improving 18 of his world records. Most notable among these were a 17-second time on level 27, 13.733 on level 24, 18.433 on level 26, and 8.6 on level 3. Additionally, he set yet another record, achieving a 13.233 on level 22 on the 7th of July. If you thought GGG 502 needed some competition, well, so did Raflik, and in August he claimed the level 40 world record by tying the Taz time of 10.7, which remains an untied record to this day. Also in the World's Hardest Game 2, Minichip beat the tutorial record on the 15th of December, clearing the 4 tutorial levels in 28.866 seconds, beating GGG 502's record from 2024 by 3 frames. It was a quiet year for the World's Hardest Game 3, but not completely silent. On the 1st of June, Raflik beat the game in 28 minutes and 22 seconds. improving his PB by 17 seconds and approaching Pirelon's 28:08 world record from 2024. The following week, he improved again, setting a 28:18, inching closer to Pirelon's record. This run looked very promising with a blazing fast pace into level 5, but unfortunately some deaths in 5D2 and a death in 5A2 set Raflik back, allowing Pirelon's run to stay in front. Raflik continued his attempts, and 3 days later he took the record with a 28:04. This run was even faster in the first 3 levels, entering level 4 in under 9 minutes. Unfortunately, 7 deaths in 4B4 and a number of time losses in level 5 cost Raflik the chance at a sub-28 run, but he was still fast enough to beat Pirelon by 4 seconds, and with this he reclaimed his sweep of all 4 games in the World's Hardest Game series. The very next day, Raflik improved his level 4 world record by 5 seconds. This run featured near flawless execution of all the rooms outside of 4B4, with only 4 deaths in 4B4 itself. It's only a matter of time before the 7-minute barrier is broken in this category. Speaking of breaking minute barriers, Raflik went on to set the first sub-28 time in the World's Hardest Game 3 on the 30th of June. The first 3 levels were not as fast as some of his other runs, but Raflik made up for it with a very strong 7:16 time on level 4 and a solid level 5, finishing the game in 27 minutes and 48 seconds. And this is where the record stands today. Raflik wasn't the only one to speedrun the World's Hardest Game 3 this year. In November, Mega Charizard became the 10th person to submit a speedrun of the World's Hardest Game 3, clocking in at 1 hour, 27 minutes and 25 seconds. The fact that only 10 people have submitted runs to this category shows how grueling this game is to speedrun, and although we've been talking about sub-29 times, even just beating the game in under 90 minutes is an impressive achievement.
On the 9th of February, Raflik took back the World's Hardest Game 4 world record from me with a 25:49, a time cut of almost a full minute. Half of that time came from one C1 skip, which I chose not to do in my previous record, but still, this was a very impressive improvement. During the early months of the year, Raflik also shaved seconds off every individual level record, achieving level 4 for the first time and with it the glitchless leaderboard sweep. Meanwhile, I had my eyes on improving the glitched runs. For a long time I've wanted to discover something to speed up 3C4, one of the longest areas. I had theorized that you could use a cutscene in combination with the platforms to cut this room short, but now with a better understanding I was finally able to find the right conditions for it to work. This was a time save of 13 seconds, the biggest one in years. In March I improved the individual level 3 run with this and started preparing for the full game. But then something unexpected happened. The world's hardest mod 4. Developed by Joe560HS throughout the year, this mod started as a Kaizo version with changes in level design, and then gradually evolved into its own thing with brand new mechanics, levels, and even characters. This was truly one of a kind. No one had ever modified the game so drastically while remaining faithful to the old methods of Flash. Altogether, it is made for a very fun and challenging experience for new and old players. Now, for me personally, there was another layer of appeal. I could use familiar glitches in brand new environments. For example, if I do this glitch here and then go to this spot, I'm able to skip the coin door in level 1. That's neat. Wait a minute, wouldn't that work on the original? That's right, with the help of the mod, I had just found the final major sequence break, the Holy Grail, level 1 coin door skip, saving a whopping 3.5 minutes. Now it was suddenly possible to beat the game in under 10 minutes, so that's what I did. On May 13th, I got a run of 9:26, improving my previous record by 5 minutes. After that, I turned to the individual levels and improved level 2 and 4 by 10 seconds each through optimization. In July, I improved level 1 by another half a minute with a whole new route featuring invisible movement. And later I also found 2 more alternative coin door skips for level 4, one of which allows me to break the rest of the game, but let's not get too complicated. Back to the normal runs. On August 15th, Raflik claimed the 100% record for the first time with a 42:15, improving Danicker's run by a minute and getting a couple ILs on the way.
As far as the world's hardest game multi-speed running, it was a very dormant year for this category, but just like the world's hardest game 3, it wasn't completely silent. On the 24th of December, the Me, alongside Minichip, took on the challenge of a world's hardest game duo-factor relay run, where both the world's hardest game 1 and the world's hardest game 2 were played back to back, but unlike a normal duo-factor, both games were played by different people. The Me ran the world's hardest game 1 in this relay, achieving a time of 5:25, while Minichip ran the world's hardest game 2 and achieved a time of 10:39 respectively. Both speedrunners collectively achieved an overall time of 16 minutes and 5 seconds, a very solid time. The world's hardest game duo-factor relay category was only added to the speedrun.com leaderboards as of 2025, making it a new category. Hopefully, 2026 will see many more runs in this category and the world's hardest game multi-speedrunning as a whole.
Another exciting development this year was the creator of the game, Steven Krytov, becoming active on the World's Hardest Game Discord server. Steven had previously joined the server and participated to a small extent, but this year he really became connected with the community. Throughout the early months of the year, Steven posted devlog videos showing progress on his web game. However, in October, Steven announced that the website idea was going to be put on hold, and his new focus would be on developing a simpler remake of the World's Hardest Game. For the rest of the year, he posted regular videos, which included playing custom levels to brush up his gameplay skill, reacting to some community videos, such as Raflik's 27:48 speedrun of the World's Hardest Game 3, and Joe's walkthrough of his World's Hardest Game 4 mod, and also giving updates on the continuing development of his World's Hardest Game project, which is still a work in progress.
In the editor community this year, I hosted 2 events, the first of which being the World's Hardest Game monthly mapping contest. This event is designed to be an event that would be held during the month to showcase level creation skills based on a theme or prompt. The event ran from April 2025 until July 2025, being cut short due to lack of activity within the community. The other event I hosted this year was a return of an old event hosted by Frost and David Concal back in 2022, in an attempt to revive the community. This was none other than World's Hardest Game Tober, where for every day in the month of October, there would be a new prompt for level creators to map for. Unfortunately, just like the monthly contest I hosted earlier in the year, the community wasn't active enough for it to be a success. And this concludes the year in summary for 2025. I would like to thank all of you for an amazing year within the World's Hardest Game community. Apologies for how late the video came out. There were a lot of crazy events this year and it took a long time to document and compile, so thank you for understanding. I would like to give a special thanks to Danicker, Fraims, and the Me for assisting with the commentary and the recap this year. If you would like to know more about speedrunning the World's Hardest Game, or if you are just interested in contributing to the community, the World's Hardest Game Discord server will be in the description. I am looking forward to what the rest of 2026 brings to the community. With that said, I have been your host, MegalordX8. Thank you for watching, and peace out. Oh, one last thing. Don't forget to subscribe.